exam. But that doesn't account for all the AIS kids I have. And I have almost the same number.
And the pre-assessment can't be in all regions.
No, you can't use it over.
So it's
A wild ride.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
And park assessments are right around the corner.
Oh, yes.
Where I was told last week that in addition to all these assessments I have to give in 9th grade now, that there's gonna be a park field test in my class at some point on a date that's yet been undisclosed to me. So, it's very
It's a
strange. It
breeze,
just-
right?
Oh, yeah.
It's all good.
It just feels like actual teaching and planning good lessons is really low on the priority list.
And we're also into the problem where Common Core wants you to teach all this nonfiction. Most English departments don't have nonfiction texts to use with their students, so you have to go and buy a new library.
And nobody can agree what the percentage is supposed to be. How much nonfiction are you supposed to teach? We were told initially that students need to be reading 50% nonfiction, and all the English teachers were, what? Are you kidding me? You know, how am I supposed to do that? And then they said, well, no, wait a minute. It's just the students have to be reading at least 50% of all the reading that they read in all content areas. Oh, okay. That sounds better, but we're still, it's strange and sometimes challenging to figure out what exactly to pull from. And all the exemplars, this is frustrating as an English teacher, all the exemplars that we're given are social studies texts. They're Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address or Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail, which are wonderful texts, but they're usually taught in the social studies class. So, it's interesting.
Challenges.
Yes.
Challenges. So as we're talking about challenges, what a lovely segue, thank you. What do you think is the greatest challenge that you're currently facing in your roles?
I think probably my biggest challenge is trying to compartmentalize all of the things that I need to cover, make sure I get them done, and still make sure I devote enough time to my students. The expectations of paperwork and assessment and Core, all of these things we have to meet. We don't have a choice. But that's not why I became a teacher. It's my job to work with kids. I don't want to miss that. That's the most important part. So the hard part is making sure that I've got everything else set where it should, so that I don't really have to worry about it. It doesn't impact on what I'm doing with the students.
I think the hard part for me is I used to run my AIS teaching the skills through the content areas. And my goal was to make sure that the kids could learn comprehension, that they learn vocabulary through their content areas without giving them any additional work, so that they enjoyed coming to my class. And it helps. I don't know. Jar pretzels in there, they can sit down and work with pretzels. But I shouldn't be doing that anymore. I should be doing additional work, different worksheets. And the kids are saying, but I've got to finish my global studies, and I've got to do this. So, fortunate, the content area teachers are giving me their assignments for the following week, a week ahead of time. So I'm trying to come up with my assignments that match their assignments, but it's not their homework. So they can take my assignments and use it for their homework, to answer their homework questions. So that's the biggest, I'm not planning weeks ahead like I'd like to be. I'm only planning 3 days ahead. So it's stressful on me.
I would agree with what Tracy said. It's really hard to make sure that your focus remains on what your goal is, which is to connect with students, to help them grow, to help them figure out whatever it is that they're having trouble with that day. And it's very stressful at times to deal with all of the different things that are coming at you. And I try to remind myself that when I deciding to go into teaching, when I first took some of my first classes, I just thought, wow, like, no offense, Dr. Miss, I thought all these education teachers are nuts. Like, this sounds like a lot of just malarkey. And, you know, I know that eventually I'll get to the part where I'm actually just helping students to grow and to grow as people and understand their world better. But I have to go through all these strange channels, and the public school system, you know, is very apparently broken to me, and I'm not there because I like it. I'm there because I want to serve the students and help them out of, you know, I often go back to Plato's allegory of the cave. I feel like I'm teaching in the cave, and I'm trying to help students out. And I just go back to that in my mind when I get really frustrated. And I just say, okay, you know, I'm just trying to pull people's bonds off and get them out of the cave, and we'll get there eventually.
I think one other challenge I think most of us are facing is the fact that somehow we've lost the public trust as educators. And that's such a huge piece. We have been demonized in a sense, because with the issue of the economic downturn, it became an acceptable thing to go after any public worker. And let's face it, educators are public workers. So if we are costing them money, then it's okay to tell us that we don't know what we're doing, even though we have spent years preparing to do this. It's kind of hard, you know. There are a great many comments I could make on that, but I won't.
Okay, well, what do you see, or what have you seen as the wide variety of roles that you find yourself playing? Because obviously literacy specialists wear many hats depending on where they are working. So what is the wide range?
Well, you know, we are still important educators for sure. But we not only educate students, it's also the expectation is that we are going to serve as professional developers for colleagues. We serve as teachers of record. If any of you are familiar with the online programs that are being used in schools, which one are you using? Novinet is being used at Dragon. We're using Plato. And so one of the newest things is that there's no longer a single teacher responsible for the students taking the Plato, not the Plato program, but taking courses within Plato. We had for a while one teacher, and that was his job, to make sure that the kids were on task, they knew what they were doing, he supported them, and he was good. But he's taken a job, full-time job as a teacher now. So the literacy specialists are being asked to be the teachers of record. If I'm also an English teacher, which is a good thing, I am going to be responsible for students that are in 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th grade that are taking those English classes that they missed for one reason or another, or failed, need to take over. So we have those, we have our regular AIS sections that we're doing, and most of us are now teaching in the Common Core classes, the core classes as well, core curriculum.
What about the paperwork, the documentation, State Department reports?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We heard last week that because we are doing this using the newer RTIM, or the RTIM model, which is working AIS into the core curriculum. We are not responsible for maintaining the paperwork that we have in the past. What is being accepted now, or we're being told will be accepted, are our regular grade reports every quarter, but then there has to be narrative comment to go with them.
I still keep the paperwork.
So do I.
They may change their mind, and I'll have to come up with it at the end of the year.
I've got this notebook, you know, it's for the pages, because I don't want to get caught short on
Yeah,
that.
I'm not Title I, I'm a Title I teacher, but there's not Title I in our high school, but I still have to do all the Title I paperwork, just in case they ask to see my files. They never have, I've been doing this for,
You've never been audited?
not in the high school. Because the high school's not Title I. K-8 is Title I, but I'm not. But my records are always put out every summer, and they never meet that. But I continue to keep them and do things like that. Part of the other roles, we do Novinet. Novinet is a credit recovery program, and the kids in Plato's the same thing. There's many courses that they can take on them, and from English 9, 10, 11, 12 to pre-algebra or science, biology,
Spanish.
health. They can take it half a semester, a full year. If a student needs to come in and only needs to work on variables for algebra, they can come in and just do that chapter on that book. If they failed that part, they can go back in and they can pass it. The math teacher will give them credit. That is one of my roles.
We also have the reading program, System 44,
Right.
which is basically a computerized reading recovery program. It's not just computer, but it does have a computer basis to it.
Yeah. And I'm in charge of that program. I'm a Department of One, the high school. So I just kind of go, depending on where they need me. Sometimes I go to the, most of the time I'm in the English department, because I am English AIS. If the science department is coming up with a research project and they want me to come in and help them differentiate the assignment for the research project, I'll go to their meeting or whatever. So you're differentiating all the things for all the kids with different levels, along with the special education teacher. And some of the IEPs, you have to figure out, the student only has to do 50% of an assignment. How do you do 50% of a research paper?
How do you modify?
Yeah, how do you modify with some of these? I was working with a teacher yesterday where the IEP said that he would learn one new math skill a marking group. Okay. He's going to learn variables, because you learn variables all year, so we'll just say variables. Whatever he does, it's all variables. That's his new skill. Whether there's one variable or two variable, I don't, you just have to figure out how to do the modifications without lessening the content. So they get the content very fast to teachers, because that's what they have to do to keep the teachers. There's a teacher improvement plan, with the new ATPI, 2 years in a row, and then have an easier time in it.
As far as paperwork, from what I've seen, observing the literacy specialist in the middle school, we're using I know for when I was doing middle school AIS, we were using this program called RTIM, and it's this very involved record-keeping system where you're doing narratives and checking several boxes and showing that there's growth from one quarter to the next and recording that. And I believe the literacy specialist was using a program almost identical, but the narratives were more involved in going over student lifestyle levels and achievement levels, and showing by way of testing that there were improvements being made. So that in that way, this the new student learning objective system with the testing wouldn't seem that foreign to the literacy specialist